hello to the audience on the new radio station. Today, we'd like to tell you a fascinating story titled Mai U40 Unmarried. I invite you to listen. You tilt your head to the side. He gets upset when he sees nothing. Keep it down or you'll hear it tomorrow. 3 boys are now 8 years old. But I know that women and girls are bathing. I was in BA class at the time, 1 year older than the 2. They come to my house almost every day. And then in the afternoon, we're going through the abandoned pigsty to look at the neighbor's house. Having a shower tomorrow. I have to say that day, she was seen by the kids in my neighborhood. Even if you have birthmarks or moles on you. We all know where it is. Maybe people are wondering. At 8 years old, you don't know what to do with a cat. But that's what I am. I don't know the kids I was with back then. What's it like now? I don't know. The childhood phobias. Is it still in their memory? That day, we've been spying on all the houses that have openings to steal. And it's even possible to watch couples. People are passionate about each other. I'm a cowardly coyote and I invite them to stalk me. But ironically, one afternoon I was out at a friend's house. I saw very small laughter in the back garden behind the house. I'm curious to get close and found out that the gods beat. Watching my mother take a shower. I got mad and sent them back. Then they paddle the fence from tomorrow's house. Or come to my house to play. Sometimes in the garden, so make sure it detects this gap. The students were afraid to watch the mother's bath. I cut them several times. But I also have to thank them. Because we've just discovered something new. That's why I love to steal my mother's bath. To say that, all of you in the neighborhood, they are far behind my mother. My mother is fair-faced and pretty. But it looks so cute. Unfortunately, he was poor that day. You don't have the means to dress well. If not, you have to eat the old lady's land. Now, my mother's body shape is balanced. Come out. But my sister is the exact opposite. So far, it's been a girl and it's been a word. I watched my mother take a shower. I've become a real addict. Every day she takes a shower and there's no AI in the house. I snuck out into the garden again. Children in the neighborhood, I must have thought I cut them. Because I didn't see that I was asking them to steal. Like every other day. But they don't know that I'm eating alone. I just want my mom to be mine, and only I can see her. Watch Thief. Sometimes I'm lucky to see it live. Sometimes when I take a shower, I'm calling. Give me the towel and the pot and the shirt. You must think I didn't know anything when I was a kid. So you're still indifferent in front of me. Usually when I go out. Due to fatigue, so I'd put one on my back and go to sleep right away. I remember the kids that day. We can play from morning till night. I don't get bored either. Folk games such as shooting cheon. Play insist, play spin. Play wheelchair, play dollar shot. Play box CM. We even know how to jump rope. But by chance one last day, there are about 10 kids in our neighborhood every week. Both boys and girls, split troops out play shoot bombs, hiding in a neighbor's garden. Me and the neighborhood hear the footsteps. The 2 of us are afraid of fear. There was no electricity outside that day. Or afraid of ghosts. The sound of footsteps in the kitchen. We held our breath. Then RA is a brother and sister in the neighborhood who are in love. It was dark in the kitchen and I didn't turn on the lights. So neither of us saw anything. The two of me. At first I heard your sausage laugh. I walked up to the kitchen to hear you. Now I know what it is. You didn't know what that was. I was surprised that day. I thought you hit me. To hear you is like crying and begging. I still remember you screaming 2 words from me. Then I'm kind of crying. Growing up, I remember. She must have been happy then. It's not as painful as I thought. Obsessing in my head about brothers and sisters in the neighborhood just like that. I didn't come home until 10 o'clock that night. When we got home, the whole family left. Sleeping, I heard the rustling blanket. Then my mother covered the blanket. It's like you're hiding something from me. It was a hot summer, and I left my mother. Whoever covers a blanket from foot to neck? I didn't know then. Now I know that my parents are taking advantage. When I'm not home, my father didn't know if it was because I broke up or something. That suddenly gets mad at me for coming home late. I said, sorry, and went upstairs to my slippers. My house at that time had only one room below. The only one with a parent's bed and a sister's bed. My sister was 5 years old. Still sleeping with my parents. My dad made an attic up here. Let me sleep. And learn lessons. I can look down from the attic. I can see my parents' bed. A hanging loft. But I just need to look down. My parents' bed also has a long gusset to cover. But it's mostly for cover if there's a visitor. Looking down from above, you can see everything. No one ever turns on the power at night. That night when the bosses slept. Normally I would sleep right away. But how about today? Think of your neighbors who just got together. I heard the bed below moving. There's my mother's little voice. Curious, I gently pulled up Rideau C. The room is dark. I can only see in the dark. I didn't see anything. I heard my mother say, "Let the people sleep." About 5 minutes later, the room is quiet. Then there's the creaking of the bed. Very small is my mother's voice. Nothing to see, but I'm still trying to stretch my eyes. To look down. A while later, I can also see a little better. Maybe your skin is so white. So in the dark I can still see. I can't remember what it felt like. I just know I like it. If you ask me how I felt, I wouldn't know. I don't remember from that day. I've collected another secret hobby. Waking up at night to see my parents. It's all grown right from my house. Even from my own parents. I was stupid that day and didn't know anything. I thought every day my parents also together. It should be conscious. But the eyes have to be wide open for fear of falling asleep. But one day I forgot a lot. Waiting for 30 minutes, then an hour. I can't see my parents moving. There are days all week waiting for you. There are no movies to watch. Now a wife knows. You can't do that every day. And then there's the red light and the green light. Watch my parents a lot. I've come to understand a little something. One day I was playing at my house with 3 of my neighbors. My parents go to work. My sister went to the girls' house to play. I'm with kids my age. I'm tired of playing games. Then move on to your parents' game. To this day I still remember the feeling. When the kids were even bumping into each other. Just look at what people do and imitate it. You know what? Suddenly my mother and I went home. Two people saw the scene. The green kids are playing grown-ups. My mother sent all the kids home. The rest of me, my mother is very angry. It's not like you can play when you're young. I don't know that day, Mom. Are you afraid I'll fall in love with a man when I grow up? I was watching my mother shower and my parents. At the age of 54, my mother was taken to Germany by her aunt. Before that, this age. I'm in adulthood and puberty. Every night I dream of tomorrow. The result is waking up. In the past, I only wore pants. It's better to wake up and see the traces. And have to do the laundry now. To be honest, I didn't know what it was like back then. I'm not ashamed to wear pants. I can't remember how many times my mother saw me. She didn't say anything. She just laughed and turned her face away. I can see the education from my parents. There are almost no children in our country. At the age of 54, my mother moved to Germany. I left my father at home. From taking care of each other. I haven't seen my mother take a shower since, or steal my parents. It's the age of puberty. Curious about that. It's not seen. Because I'm not home anymore. Time goes on peacefully. I focus on my studies for the end of high school. And I can also park in one. High school has a reputation in my eye. Long time no one to steal the shower. I thought my illness was over. Who would have thought? My disease, it's growing stronger. When I was in 11th grade, there are more than 20 girls in the class. But without understanding why I look, I can't stand it. There's no one to make me feel. It must also be added that, at that time it seemed to be the AI house. There are no conditions either. Should be a 1,418-year-old student. Not as developed as the students are now. Today's high school girls are white. Who have enough nutrients. Should be much puffer than it was before Kia. 11th grade school year, I started going to school. At University Exam Preparation Centers, like Bach Hoa Furnace, North Door Oven for 2 years of exam preparation here. Practice less and play more. In the game. I also played a lot of games with my classmates. But I'm particularly impressed. A game that I silently played alone. I dare not tell anyone. It's stalking couples in the park. I used to like to sit on the benches that day. And choose the bench where the pair is sitting on the side. I just need to see the couple. That I already feel like it. Every time I go to a test. That I enlisted again. Then I went to bed. I don't know who you are either. Same age as me. How to stay in class. But I can feel it too. Is that my problem is too strong? I just wish that day that someone would come back to me. To satisfy the need. It's also about satisfying the curious mind. I wish there was someone who would give it away. The more I'm curious, the more I get sick. It's growing stronger. Even at night, I see ghosts. Once I was sitting on a bench. Then one of you came to sit next to me. I sat him down and he opened the newspaper. You two are talking drunk. Then he takes actions. He thinks I'm a girl or something. It's so shameful. I don't understand why. I like it, but I don't hate it. That hand is like magic. I kept quiet and enjoyed the strangeness. He whispered in his ear that I was going to die. My brothers go out, where we rented the bathroom, take a shower. It's too hot. It was like I was drugged. You are wrong now, follow me. So you took me to a block. There are several bathrooms for rent. 2 people taking shower. That day was the first time in my life I was taken care of by someone else. But there's the irony. It's male, not female. When he took care of me, he said it was my turn. I'm scared and I'm disgusted. Can someone else do it for me? If you told me to respond, who would dare to think? I asked permission to get dressed and go home, and from that day on, I've been sitting on the bench from time to time. But you or someone else is sitting next to you. Then I run. Learning is not learning much, but the number I it. Very lucky on that road. End of the school year, I got into a national university with a 17.5. That makes the neighboring village. And all the AIs cheered because they were so surprised. 4 years of college doesn't pay off. Little knowledge, envelope bribe teacher plus a little hard. Help me when I get to the exam. Graduated from school. I also had 4 years of love in college. But relationships only last a few months. Is that I get bored and take the initiative to say goodbye. The reason for breaking up is simple. One is months. From morning to night in the park. And in general, bears don't give too much. That's the forehead. The second love is better than the first. I went to the motel a few times, but it also points to the most important part. Try again. Outside, you have a beautiful face, a lot of flirting. There's me in there. And I'm the winner. You are beautiful. But I went to the motel a few times. If you look at it forever, you get bored. Because in my mind I had a standard of beauty. That's what I like about mom and dad. I feel a little sorry now that I think about it, because you can't be human. They left people. Third love at the end of the 3rd year. You're the one who flirted with me and gave it to me. But my classmates said, "What do you love?" It's not the same guys at school. It's boring. There's my classmate in there. So I get bored and fly you. By the end of the 3rd year, I had a bear. He is also 1089 years old. But there's a lot like my sister and my mother. So I love her too. She was in love for a few months and agreed to go to the motel. But for the first time, it didn't go too far. I thought you should still be happy. But the second time, after speaking in general, I found out this one's out of warranty. When you ask me, I cry. The next day my neighbor came to play. I can't believe people. I don't want to believe it, but I don't know what to do. I just comforted you. By the end of the 4th year, I love a girl a year older than me. But I have a 2-year-old. My husband has lost more than 5 years. My father was also dating a woman over 30 years old. I have a son and my husband has only been dead for a few years. My father forbade me to fall in love with her. While you are entitled. I don't understand why it's ridiculous. Our only experienced bed Matt's told. That's why I really knew what it was. Enjoy being in love with you. Suddenly my mother forced me to go to Germany with her. To help my mother trade. Because you saw me graduate. But there's no good job. It's all about playing and falling in love. She's worried I'm a ham. And plunge into social evils. So she decided to take me with her. Right now, my parents' business didn't go very well. You two get into fights because she blames my dad for staying at the girl's house. And my father, she doubted her loyalty to living in Europe. He was right because of how many times he asked. But my mother refused. Tell him to stay home and look after you. That's the turn. My life began to change. I went to Europe to live with my mother. And my sister's still studying, so she's at home with her dad. The time when I'm done with the paperwork, my parents are still nominally married. But they broke up and agreed to break up. Let both suffer. After heated arguments. After going to Germany, the first thing I was surprised by. Back to the room. There was a man about 10 years older than me. At first my mother hid his age. It's easy to call each other, actually. When I found out, the man was 3 years old. Inferior, my mother of 10 years old. This is my friend's uncle. Say hello to me. I saw my mother telling me to call him uncle. I'll call you uncle. In fact, I know from my face. I call you just. But my mother lied. That's the babysitter. He is 7 years old and has a wife and 2 children in Vietnam. I also wonder why you're here. And what's really mom's? But I'm not in a hurry to ask. Tired after a long flight. So I roll back and forth and I fall asleep all the time. I was so sleepy that day. I saw my mother's bed and climbed up. A good night's sleep. Our house is a communal house. The house has only 1 bedroom, a kitchen and a living room. This room is on Monday. I was introduced by my mother as my bedroom. There is also a desk bed and a computer. I asked my mother what I was wondering. Yesterday you were at my house, Mom. I didn't tell you anything about him. What is he? I took a deep breath and said, he's my lover. I'm sorry. Don't tell anyone. Especially don't tell your dad. Why do you love someone less than your age? There are few Vietnamese here. It's hard to explain. Later I lived here for a long time. I will understand myself and understand you. I saw you say that, so I didn't ask. I'm just thinking about my parents' fights. I saw my father talking loudly and yelling at my mother. I wouldn't fit it either. Maybe even talk more. I'm jealous. Jealous down with the girl. That I pair up to deal with what I'm asking for. While here my mother is inferior to my father. It's not even more than that. When she dated a man 10 years younger than her. Before that, she was my role model, is the idol of beauty in my heart. I was a little bit trying. It should be that good thoughts of you have diminished. I lost my mother and I was angry with my uncle. I didn't talk to him much the first week. But next week. Then things changed very quickly in my mind. It's about 2 people. I find you quite friendly. And he's especially dry. He laughed at everything I said. I never saw him angry. Or frown with AI. Ever. I don't know anything, so I usually stay at home. Sometimes go to the Vietnamese market to play. Let me know. I was registered by my mother for a month's BA class. To call, I know a little bit about the language where I live. My language class is for 3 hours in the afternoon. It's from 2 to 5 o'clock. I usually get up late in the morning. I usually wake up at 9 to 10. When I wake up, my mom and uncle have been selling since 8 o'clock. Maybe that's why I have a crush on you. It comes from my weird hobby. That morning, I woke up at 7 because I was sad to go to the bathroom. I got up and opened the living room door and went to the bathroom. Because there's carpet in the house, so everybody's barefoot. So when I went to the bathroom, there's a toilet in this bathroom. You can't hear anything. I didn't notice, I just knew it was too sanitary. New to the bathroom. That I carelessly opened the door. The door is closed without lock. I was startled when I opened the door. My uncle and my mother are in there. To see such a scene. Then reflexively I closed the door. Then back to the living room. You must have left each other out of shame. I still feel bad about the living room. He was sitting in the house waiting for the 2 of them to leave. When I saw that Uncle Quan was in his room, I waited for my mother, but I still haven't seen her. Mom, are you done? Hurry up and let me in. I called for a moment, and I was a little upset, and the door opened. I went to the bathroom and so on. My mother must have seen what she said. What kind of spatter is that? I'm flushing my hole and I don't want to have sex with you. My mother probably understands why, so don't say what to do. When I finished, I saw my mother washing her face with ice cream. I'm bending a little, so I can see. I almost made you pants. My mother didn't say anything, just turned around and glared at me and tapped me on the shoulder. I went to the living room and slept again. Think of the scene just now. It's been a long time since I saw my mother take a shower. The memory of the past comes back. When you two go to work, I closed the door again and went to bed. A few days later, I've also been more open to authority. Talk to you more. Being in this house is different from Vietnam. It's cold outside though. There is a fireplace in the house, so the AI also dresses as cool as summer. I usually wear shorts BA holes. Generally speaking, there is no hesitation. My mother too. She has lived here for a long time, so she dresses well. On a weekend evening, when we were eating, my mother asked, "What language class is it too difficult for you?" It's a little difficult compared to English. I try to learn a little to communicate with people. German doesn't know how to speak. Yeah, I know. Are you familiar with AI in class? I also know some people, but it's called socialization and it's not really close to AI. I don't know you. There are some of you, but it's all alligators with two backs. I can't see who has feelings. Do you like Western girls? That's the whole conversation between me and the uncle. I feel normal. But I don't know the language, so I can't get used to it. I know how to talk to them right away. The West is easy. Mom started talking. How many Western girls have you slept with? Right to start talking. Vietnamese boys come here who has not tried. I have to try some Western ones. Do Western girls like it better in Vietnam? I am curious to know how the West is. In fact, Vietnamese girls I like better. Come on, man. Don't poison my baby, we talk all the time. Just act like you're too young. You're getting married. How bad is that, son? Are there any in Vietnam? Are chatting. It looks cute in Vietnam. If you can see it, you have to stop it. It's easier to do business here than at home. That's what I'm thinking. You two haven't finished eating yet, so I still have 8 chopsticks. Eating and drinking. After cleaning up, my uncle and I sat watching TV6. My mother peeled the flowers and put them on the table. I'm watching you switch to another channel. This channel also shows movies, but American movies. I don't know the sound, so just look at the picture. I found out later. This channel shows love movies every weekend. It prohibits children from watching. 3 people were afraid, so they all said nothing. My mother must be more afraid. So she watched for a while. Stand up and tell him to go to bed first. Just watch for another 5 minutes and go to bed. And I went to my mother's room. When you leave the living room, you shut the door. I sat next to him for a few minutes. I heard someone opening the bathroom door. I'm sure you can brush your teeth. When I heard the dog's voice, I went to my room, then I played the TI6. I don't understand anything. How is it today that I don't want to go to bed early? I don't want to mess with the computer. I lay still and listened to the situation. Because I guess today my mother and uncle. There is also something in bed. I lay down for a few minutes and decided to stand up. What kind of spying ever came back to me? I gently opened the living room door and crept to my mother's room. The mother's room is closed, so I can't see anything. I looked through the tiny hole in. The keyhole can't be seen. The only way to do that is to put your ear to the door. Listen to what's going on inside. I can hear you inside. It seems to be talking. I waited a few minutes and saw nothing, so I went back to my room. I'll be back in 2 minutes. I'll go out and put my ears on. The fear of suddenly going out. I must have fallen to the ground. It's a very nervous feeling. You're still talking very quietly. Then I didn't hear anything. I guess you're starting. But it's just a guess. Because I can't hear anything. The bed is next to the window inside. So far from the door where I'm standing. Annoyed at not hearing anything. So I went back to my room to watch a movie. I looked out the window in the living room. There's a thought that comes to mind. I saw I had a way. Life just happens. A year later, I married. I brought her here to live with me. I don't know if I should be sad or happy. When you take Lynn as your wife, I was born and raised in a poor country. Is that she's hard at work? And especially here. The harder you have to make money. But Spirit is the exact opposite. It must be said that Lynn is quite lazy and, the sales. I spend all day on the phone with friends. In Vietnam, everything is said before and forgotten after. If you tell me to do everything slowly, I will do it. But then I forgot to make it fast. The store thought it would be better to have women. But it's not like that. Makes me scowl. Go home. After lunch, go to the computer to get online. He had a wife whose house had only been cleaned once every 5 days. Makes me think a lot. Housework is also lazy, but the cooking is real. If I'm hungry, I can still swallow. She doesn't know how to cook anything but rice. I've taken on the whole thing. I'm bored. I listen to my wife complain all the time. I am bored and just want to go back to Vietnam. Sometimes 2 couples have a fight. What is the husband and wife match the bed? But there are no children. 2 men were trying to fight when one day. He said Kia will return to Vietnam soon. To take care of my sister's wedding. I'm a little surprised. Chat with him every day. Without telling me anything. I asked her why she had to get married so quickly. I told the doctor to get married. Fortunately, my sister has just graduated from school and is working. The job is not stable. They're going to get married in 2 years. Now you have to get married because of an unworthy accident. I want my wife to get pregnant and I can't. That it doesn't want to stick around at all. God is always joking. My sister is married and I love her. It's been lonely since childhood, the lack of love of his mother and brother. So it's sad and it's quiet. Fortunately, it doesn't get into the habit of playing. As many children, focus on learning more. Her husband is the same age and in the same college class. The house in the countryside is poor. Just out of school like my sister. So now you're white-handed. There's a baby now. My brother doesn't work. Her husband has to take care of everything. But the salary is sure to be $4-5 million is the same. I love my sister and think my husband. It's also hard. So I'm going to stomach it. Every month we'll give them a little bit to fund them. About €100 a month. During my mother's wedding for my sister, I went to the temple with my grandmother to pray for the husband. We have a baby next year, and husband and 2 happy sisters. There I met a fortune teller, and I was curious to ask him to watch for family destiny. I don't understand how the fortune teller caught the hexagons, but when I saw her face, she was so sad. Suddenly, I saw my mother asking for food, especially not with so many men anymore. It seems to end immediately. Of course I don't understand. Why did you change so quickly? I tried to ask why. Then she confided in me. About the fortune teller catching hexagons for his mother. The fortune teller said, "Is because of Mom. I've done something wrong to my ancestors. Soon, my mother and family will have a big break. Solving this limit is difficult. It can only be reduced, not avoided." I heard it all buzzing. I was dizzy and thinking about my mom and dad. She was afraid she couldn't stand up. "You have to ask for help or you will fall." The fortune teller only told me that he wanted to limit the family to less. "Sometimes I eat vegetarian." Recite the Buddha's words for his mind to be pure. We should do more good to correct our mistakes. I mean, when the fortune teller says something, is that I feel like he can see everything inside. I was so afraid of what would happen to my family. I'm really vegetarian now. Every day I burn incense. When I heard my mother's story, I started to get scared. I don't believe in divination or superstition games. But this time, I have a feeling the time is coming for me. After Mom's at home getting her sister married. Then back to this side. I married my uncle for a year. And I've changed a lot. From the day my mother came, Hong is my son. It's a relatively gentle nature. But since the day she broke up with him, then you're very depressed. SA went to play with his friends. Spoilage and gambling addiction. Peak in just 3 months. You're in debt with a lot of money. And Uncle Tuan can't. What can be done more? I had to sell a nail salon to pay off my son's debt. Uncle Tuan is so angry with Mr. Hong, so I kicked him out of the house. And made him look for work himself. Make him take care of himself. The rest of the salon is run by my mom. Uncle Tuan was tired of the sickness in his body. This is another case of the Lord, so I am devastated. Uncle Tuan was extremely depressed and had autism. About the sickness in you. There are 7 hopes for the boy. So I started to talk less and less about depression and irritability. I'm not happy either. In the mother is the torment of conscience. The anxiety for the family. Now I look at Uncle Tuan more and more sad. The situation has been more than 9 months, but Lin still has no good news. I'm worried. So one day my mom told the 2 of us to come to her house. That day I invited a monk to do a small ceremony. Pray for 2 families. And release us from having a baby. Release Uncle Tuan not sick. To October. My mother and I are thinking about the same thing. Are you all thinking? Whether it's in the spirit or not. So I quietly told Lin to go to the doctor. At first she was angry at me for the doubt. She kept insisting that she wasn't sick. Or whatever it is. But under pressure from my mother, so she finally accepted. Go with your mother to the doctor. Hold the examination paper in your hand. I am so glad to know that I am normal. And there's no question of fertility. Now everyone's eyes are on me. I'm really afraid of going to the doctor. Fear of bad results. When I read it, I can't stand it. I decided not to go to the doctor for the reason that it's healthy. Night 2 to be a flashing carefree. Everything has no SAO to be sterile. I still eat and drink. I take medicine regularly because my mother cut me from Vietnam. Husband and wife sex in a way that they still use. Lin must have suspected I should have stabbed RA. She's naturally hard on me. Sometimes it's too much. And I don't know what I did wrong. Then the curiosity wants to know the truth. So I also went to the doctor alone without Cho. Who knows the date when the results come in? On the way that I'm nervous. I don't care about green lights or red lights. Just go without paying attention to anything around you. Nervous and anxious while waiting for the doctor. 5 minutes and 10 minutes and the doctor hasn't called in yet. I just kept trying to get up and go home. Don't care anymore. Then the doctor opened the door and called in. I heard the doctor and I felt my ears buzzing. Quickly, all face. I sweat like a shower when I hear it. You can't have a human child. You have a problem that 9% can't fix. If you want to have children, the only way to do that is to intervene mechanically. By science. And I'm not sure if it's going to work. It also depends on luck. I drove home not knowing where to go. I don't want to go home. I don't want to face the spirit. I dare not tell the truth. Let the spirit know. I walked into a beer bar and texted Lynn. I have work to do late at night. Tell her to call a taxi when the store is closed. But go home. I don't know how many glasses to drink. I don't know. What are you thinking about? Sometimes tears fall. I want to scream so much I can't help it. I'm choking when I think of my lonely self. I can't believe I'm the helpless one. I still can't believe this whole life. I'll never be a father. I've thought a lot. I thought about breaking up with Lynn. Let her find another man to be a mother. It was more than 10 o'clock at night when I walked out of the bar. Outdoor heavy snow and white clear the road. I drink so much that I can't drive. I have to call a taxi. This is a small town with thousands of people. So with the cold weather. And it's snowing like this. There are no taxis working at this hour. Yes, we walk back. It must be over 7 kilometers from here to home. So I walked alone in the snow-covered night. Dark road OM01 shadow people. The cold reached to the bone. It's another mental pain. Make me go. It feels like the world has abandoned me. Keep texting me and calling me all the time. But I don't want to hear it. My footsteps keep walking in the cold night. It's a long way off to the main road. There are only trees and fields on both sides, so the wind is very strong. The colder the colder. Fortunately, I saw a bus stop. Route. The bus also goes through the area near where I live. I'll see how long it takes to get a car. It takes about 30 minutes to get there from 2 to 1. The last ride was almost 10 minutes. I had to wait another 20 minutes for the car. It's cold, probably minus 10 degrees outside. If walking helps. But if you sit still, it's really terrible. I normally drink a lot. But walk outside. In this weather, the weak are not careful. They lose their lives like play. But I wasn't afraid of anything, not even being alive. Waiting forever to see the lights of the approaching bus. I stood up to wait for it to stop. But the numbers are black. They didn't stop. I can see your pitiful eyes. Sitting in the car towards me. When the car was far away, I stood and smiled. Go on. People who treat each other like that. I'm not a person, I'm an animal. I just walked away. Think of my life cut off through the little forest. It seems a little scary at first, but you have to walk. Not backwards, hiding one day, but I can't get through my wife's eyes. I look at my face and my mood is to know what I'm sure happened. So I told her everything. Let her know. Lynn finished crying a lot. The following days, these are the heavy days of the couple. They were both bored and didn't say a word. I've also talked about breaking up. But Lynn refused to say that the water is still slapping. Finally, the couple decided to close the store for a month. Let's go back to Vietnam first. Just to see if it's more likely. She also supported us in Vietnam for medical treatment. You look so sad in your eyes, I know. Most of the time, I listen to the advice of others. Cure by Oriental medicine. Western medicine cannot cure it. It's also quite expensive for drugs to take. But drink it as directed. I don't know if it works. More than a month after arriving from Vietnam, I heard my brother-in-law calling from Vietnam. My wife fell on the news and fell off her leg. It was so sad the baby couldn't keep it. Me too. I haven't eaten for a week. When I tell my mom the news, the baby is over 7 months old. If you feel guilty for it, just 2 more months. It's going to see the sunlight. But that's never going to happen. After the tragic events that happened, my husband still has to stand up. Still have to live and for rice and money. There are many people living around us. If I want this, others want that. I can't live alone. The wife lives with a husband, inability to have children. I felt sad at first and later comforted. But time goes by. The true nature of people. It has just been shown. Order of life in the family has slowly begun to change. I talk less to my wife. On the contrary, Spirit is now very angry. Or raise your voice with me. I was silent without a pair. But whatever she likes to say. On the other side of Uncle Tuan's family, it's no better. My family, you two rely on each other for the rest of your life. But also not alone. Since the day of RA, the king has not worried about making money. I'm used to being the boss. I don't like to work for others. I don't want to work, but the money is needed. So he hangs out with his bad friends to gamble. Winning is not good. When you lose, there is no money. So you've been lured by gangsters into the trade. After 2 flights, go to the 3rd. You were arrested by the police while shipping large quantities into Germany. When the court sentenced him to 15 years in prison, he was deported. I looked at everyone for the last time. My eyes broke when I saw my father like that. You must have regretted what you did. Finally, he turned his eyes to his mother. I looked at my mother for a long time. I thought you were looking at my mother. I want my mom to take care of you. 3 months after his arrest, Tuan also died of diabetes. What about all your property? Then you leave it to me. So that when he gets out of prison, he'll have some capital to do business with. At the nail salon, I left it up to my mother to work. If you do that, the entire income will be yours. If you sell, the money is divided. My mother and I are each half. After a few months, my wife and I still haven't seen any progress. The good news seems hopeless. People also advise us is to go to Vietnam for treatment. It's also quite expensive. So I had to collect all my savings. Let the couple return to Vietnam. This time it will require medical intervention. Because we're in the trade. So I've only been back 2 weeks. The husband and wife go to the hospital. After my things kept frozen, I turned to the side to continue my work. Lynn had to stay in Vietnam for nearly 3 months, then came. Since the day my sister was missed. I don't know why I can't have children in a year. I've been thinking, wondering, about the children of the 2 brothers. Why do you cheat like that? One day Lynn told me there was good news or something. I took her to the hospital. So, I have good news for the whole family. From the day Lynn got pregnant, my husband and I call it fun. My sister is careful now. Take care of my husband and I every day. How much hard work I did. Even the work of women I'm ready to do. I just hope that you are round and square. Just think of the term hanging over your head. That I'm scared of. At 18 months, my sister still can't have children. I was lucky enough to be a father. Lynn gave birth to a white boy. My whole family was very happy, and especially me. In the months that followed, my mother and I were like princes. I am happy to still do everything. I love him so much. See it as your treasure. The older he gets, he doesn't look like me at all. People talk about it and it turns out I'm suspicious. But then I don't care. Because I loved it too much. If it's not my child, I'll keep it. All my family's life. You've put all the treasures in now. 6 months since he was born, his wife is still at home looking after him. Because I want to. I hired a maid at the store. I'm really happy to be selling this morning. My brother-in-law called to tell me his wife had news. I'm glad. Because finally after more than 2 years since the day she was missed. Then their spouses. We finally got God's blessing. Like our spouses. I'll call my mom right away. I am so happy to be at the store, but she rushed home to light incense. To thank God Buddha. I was going to call my wife, but no. To talk about surprise wife at night. I was happy, I told the grandmother in the store. I ran out to buy some dinner to celebrate. And by the way, buy him some food. I went home to throw the food in the closet. Afraid the store will be broken. Because you're a child, you're afraid he'll wake up. I opened the door very gently. Step foot inside, the sound of man and woman. Make me stand still. Look at the boy in the crib. Sleeping well alone outside the living room. I love it and I love it so much. I started listening to the sounds in the room. Husband, I miss my husband. I miss you too. I remember both of you, did you follow me? Both will follow you. He's your son. But will the people accept it? Not to accept, also to accept. Because it's not his child. Not say much more, people are going crazy. I was stunned when I heard the truth. He looked at the boy for a long time. I'm going out. Oh, this life is just me muttering and walking. Lynn and I divorced as a wish of both. Take me to the city with you. And then I got bored. Lonely with this unhealed land at all. They sold the store. I sold half the money and gave it to Lynn. It's like letting her take care of Kia for me. I don't care what she uses it for. As long as she takes good care of him. I also feel warm. Not be tormented. I gave the rest of the money to my mother. Ask mom to hold it, then buy me a round-trip ticket back to Vietnam. 3 months to calm down. I carry only 5,000 euros. Go back in the hope that it's enough. I just want to go back to my old friends. The real friends I see. There are still people in this world to trust. To keep standing up. Then my aunt brought me back to help. She and the sisters next door still rely on each other. I also sell the store, then move to another city to live with his sister. Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, this is the story, please close. Thank you for listening. Hello, goodbye, and see you in the next stories.